Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Trailmix, where the nuts might be a little stale, but the company is always fresh.
Craig Crawford here, retired journalist working for nothing but the truth and Social Security checks. Today we're looking at the Comey arraignment. James Comey indicted on perjury charges by the Trump administration. Former FBI director. This is one of these unprecedented things. That's a word we use a lot in the Trump 2-second term. And he's showing up at Alexandria federal court today for arraignment. Media's all over it. We're going to get a live feed and check it out a little later. But first, here's a bit of back. James Comey is a dirty cop. Is that vexatious?
I think that a judge could certainly find it so. I think that if this were to go to trial, I could see the judge saying to the prosecutor, if there are any statements by anyone in the government, including the president, that would affect the substantial rights of this defendant, you are looking at a dismissal. I could see that happen.
James Comey is a dirty cop. Is that vexatious?
I think that a judge could certainly find it so. I think that if this were to go to trial, I could see the judge saying to the prosecutor, if there are any statements by anyone in the government, including the president, that would affect the substantial rights of this defendant, you are looking at a dismissal. I could see that happen.
James Comey is a dirty cop. Is that vexatious?
I think that a judge could certainly find it so. I think that if this were to go to trial, I could see the judge saying to the prosecutor, if there are any statements by anyone in the government, including the president, that would affect the substantial rights of this defendant, you are looking at a dismissal.
And there you have the main defense we're going to be seeing, I'm sure, from the Comey side. This is a malicious prosecution, and it ought to be thrown out for that purposes. By the way, there's a law in the books in the federal statutes that if they are able to prove malicious prosecution in this case, we, the taxpayers, get to pay for all of Comey's legal bills. How do you like that? How do you like them apples? And we're going to go over here and see what's happening at the courthouse. Alexandria Federal Court is where this happened. And we're going to take a look at the coverage of that by what is this one? This one is in MSNBC. No, that's Fox. Well, we'll take a look at. Well, let's watch a little Fox here for a minute, if you can stand it. Covering this whole thing. They're looking at Noam in Portland right now, doing her little performance art.
I never gave them a chance to come back.
Just curious if you've ever seen something like this, where you had somebody at that level, a cabinet level, on the ground, face to face with the people who are being deported.
I can't think of a situation, and I think a couple things are important here. One, it shows the type of person.
Fox is just like Trump. Everything's we've never seen this never before. I've never known if that's very.
But I think what the
accurate
administration's doing this,
they love to
their
do all this
messaging has been so strong on this, and her being front and center brings attention to the illegal aliens, particularly the criminals, that their days in this country are numbered. And we've seen how successful it's been, because I
had
the
assumed
numbers at
Fox
the
was going to
southern
get all
border are the
excited about
lowest
the
number
Comey
of
arraignment,
detentions
but
in like
so far it
55
doesn't look
years.
like it.
So all of
Go
these
over here
things
to
are
see
coming
where
together in a very positive way for
MSNBC,
the American
I
people
see
and for public
over here
safety. But it is a
MSNBC
unique.
is paying a little more attention to it. I'm going to move over there and see what they're saying. Move to the MSNBC screen. I ask in my control room, which is me, to put that on the screen here, and here they are talking about it. Got their legal correspondent on the case. He's talking here about what Comey does next after this arraignment.
Potential curveballs you would be preparing for?
I think we have to prepare for curveballs when we're dealing with this administration. But other than that, an arraignment is a pro forma proceeding in every criminal case, and it is a requirement that every criminal defendant be informed precisely of the charges against them. And as a result, you will hear the judge read the indictment, or the clerk will read the indictment, and will ask Mr. Comey how he pleads through his lawyer. I'd put the safe money on Mr. Comey through his lawyer saying that he pleads not guilty. There then should be a quick review about conditions of release. I assume that jail and bail won't be an issue in this case, and there'll be an adjournment, maybe a motion scheduled to figure out who's filing what papers. But it should be pro forma. It happens in every criminal case. It happened in Donald Trump's criminal case, and it should be uneventful.
And we expect it to go fairly quickly. We just got an update from inside the courtroom. According to the Associated Press, James Comey just entered a not guilty plea when asked. Again, because it's federal court, we don't have cameras in the courtroom and people aren't able to get devices in the courtroom. So we're, of course, having a reporter inside, and we'll get the full readout when the court is over. But, Judge, we've already seen thousands of layoffs at the DOJ under Trump and Pam Bondi. We've seen a lot of Trump loyalists, some with little or no prosecutorial experience, elevated into these real senior high-profile roles. Other career prosecutors have been purged. Could that inexperience in a case like this hamper the federal government's case moving forward with this judge?
Certainly. Even experienced lawyers and career prosecutors make mistakes in court. That's why we have an appellate process. That's why we have district courts and the Supreme Court to review what's done downstairs, so to speak, in trial courts. Certainly that can happen, but when you have inexperience and you don't have expertise, you'll find there'll be more pitfalls, and I'm sure that the defense will exploit that where appropriate.
Christopher, just as you sit here as a former FBI senior official, I'm wondering what's going through your mind to just see what's playing out before the American public, and what, you think people inside the FBI may be feeling in this moment.
Well, I can tell you what people in the FBI are feeling, that it is, I speak to people every day, and I'll see some senior agents later this evening, and the mood is very dire throughout the FBI. This looks like it's deliberate. It looks like they're going after him for retribution. I will tell you the charge, the providing material of false information, is something that, as an agent and as a leader in the FBI, we have used at times, but it's very difficult to get past the U.S. Attorney's Office to start with. And what we generally do is we have our case built and all the details built before we pull anybody in for an interview.
About this, if you can stand it for a moment, we're going to look at that. As you might imagine, they're a little more celebratory about this whole thing. Here we got the Fox News coverage.
Moments ago in front of the judge, Michael Nachmanoff, appointed by Joe Biden, not guilty on both federal charges. He's accused of lying in front of Congress back in 2020. So that is the update inside the courtroom. And while that's happening in one part of Northern Virginia, this is happening across the river. In Washington, D.C., House Speaker Mike Johnson on day 8, I do believe, partial government shutdown. Let's watch.
Remember, Georgia's 2 Democrat senators, Warnock and Ossoff, have now voted 5 times to keep the government closed down. 5 times so far. I suspect they may continue, and they're hurting real people in the state of Georgia. Here's one from New Hampshire local media. National parks caught in the crosshairs of government shutdown. Let me point out that both senators...
Well, I see Fox is already off the story.
Have repeatedly voted to keep...
James Comey's arraignment today.
And New Hampshire's national park sites...
I'm a little surprised.
Extension.
I kind of thought Fox would get more into this story, but you never know about them. They've got some weird ideas. Maybe they're just not into promoting the Comey story right now. Get back over to MSNBC, that interestingly enough seems more interested in the story.
And that he is asking for a jury trial. All very standard pro forma things that happen in an arraignment, but that's what we know so far.
Just on the optics here, Ken, you were among those who reported out this news that we have outside prosecutors who would be representing the government today. You also have reporting that today's arraignment could have had a much different tone. Apparently, there was a push to have
I've been going back and forth. Fox isn't covering this as much.
Yeah, that's right. That's our reporting.
Others.
That's what the Trump administration
They just
wanted.
did a quickie
we didn't
on the
know that
Comey
though until we
pleading not
learned that
guilty
the
and moved
FBI
on to
agent who
Portland.
resisted that, who said, no thanks, that's not how we do business here in these kinds of cases. That agent was fired for insubordination, and the FBI director has essentially confirmed that in a post on X. And so that's how it could have transpired. That's how some people inside the Trump administration wanted it to transpire, a very public arrest in front of the cameras with James Comey in handcuffs. But that kind of thing almost never happens in cases like this that are about
that's what they wanted.
Lying to
Trump did
investigators
not get what he wanted
similar
on this
kinds
one.
of
Somebody's
nonviolent, white-collar
charges.
That would have been extraordinary. It didn't happen. And you're absolutely right. To the other issue, which is prosecutors from outside the district having to come in and try this case. I mean, that's just the tenor of what's been happening. The whole thing from the beginning, when you hear that the Trump-appointed U.S. attorney was forced out because he didn't think there was any merit to this case. And so then Donald Trump chose his former defense attorney.
Comey pled not guilty. I guess we're not surprised by that.
No, not at all.
But Trump didn't get his perp walk. He's going to be so mad, he's going to fire somebody. He wanted Comey in handcuffs.
Yeah, I read somewhere that they brought in 2 attorneys from North Carolina. Has that been mentioned?
Oh, I have not seen that. No.
Yeah, to work on the prosecution team. I don't know whether they were part of the Department of Justice elsewhere. I have not heard anything.
Well, I had read that they were going to have to do something like that because the prosecutors in the Virginia office there didn't want to do it.
Yeah. Well, and I think that they could certainly tell them do it or you're out, but I don't think that they'd want people who were not really interested in doing it.
Yeah. I mean, and then there's mounting evidence of all the advice that the Justice Department got that this was not a winner. This case it wasn't worth pursuing. And most importantly, is it John Durham, what was his role? He investigated Comey a bit of other things too.
Well, yeah, and he investigated the investigation of the Russia.
Right.
He investigated that as an independent attorney. I forget what the term is now. They've changed the terms for those people. But he did it under that role.
And then what the story we've heard that has been reported is that in anticipation in an investigation of whether to prosecute Comey, they talked to him and he told them it's a no-go, that he had investigated and there's nothing there.
Well, that's what the reports are, and I think his report was public. It was a public report.
Yeah, I went back and looked at some of the coverage of that. I didn't go to the report itself, but it didn't mention Comey. I mean, so that from what at least the coverage of his report at the time it came out didn't mention Comey, but that doesn't mean the report didn't. I don't know.
Yeah, usually it is mostly public. There might have been some parts that were kept from the public, but and then also the Inspector General also did, the IG, Department of Justice IG also did a report and did not find any
Specifically about Comey?
The whole thing.
The whole thing, yeah. Because now I'm trying to remember Comey. How did Comey play into that original investigation of the investigation? That was the so-called Russia hoax investigation.
You need to repeat that question.
Yeah,
I didn't understand it.
The Inspector General's investigation and the Durham investigation, they were investigating the FBI investigation of
correct
what Trump calls the Russia hoax.
That's my understanding.
Jeez. And in both cases, they didn't find that Comey did anything wrong.
As far as we know, I mean, they did not find any criminal activity.
Right. So, I mean, that's just going to be fodder for Comey's defense attorneys in this case to say, look, the Justice Department had fair warning that this case was a non-starter.
Yeah, it depends on how they attempt to present it. I think it would certainly be important if they say that it's a vindictive prosecution. If they argue that, then it would certainly be relevant evidence.
Yeah, I'm thinking of questions on the fly, so that I don't forget. What was that one? Oh yeah, the 14. And okay, on that point that you just made, make that point again.
It would be if they argue that it is vindictive prosecution. It would be relevant information for that. Just the fact that somebody else did not believe that there was sufficient evidence, that in itself would not be, because it will be up to this jury to decide if there is sufficient evidence.
Right.
So that it would not. I couldn't absolutely say it would have come in absent a vindictive prosecution argument.
Yeah, and my question, which I wrote, I'm writing them down because I forget them from one second to the next. On that point is, and we got here. I mean, you're a former federal prosecutor for what? How many years?
About 32.
Yeah, you're also my cousin. But anyway, about the vindictive prosecution defense. Here's my question. When you make that defense in a case, are you implicitly or explicitly acknowledging guilt?
I've never had one. It is a very, very rare argument, because
in other words, are you saying, okay, I did this, but
not necessarily.
It's malicious for you to prosecute?
No, I don't think so. I don't think there's no admission there at all.
So it's not like a pardon.
No, you're saying I did it, but I mean, now with the selective prosecution, that's different. That's two different things. Selective and vindictive are different.
Right. Yeah, I have noticed there is. I've just learned this anew. So how does selective play into?
Well, selective. Your argument is that other people did this and they weren't prosecuted.
So you're saying the defendant is saying I did this.
You aren't necessarily admitting that you did it, but you are saying other people were not charged who were alleged to have done this.
Well, I raised that because I saw a discussion on Fox where, and of course, they were just cheerleading the whole prosecution of Comey, the whole panel they had on, and no one challenged this. And one of their so-called experts said, "Well, if he claims vindictive prosecution, then he's admitting guilt."
No,
and that stuck with me ever since. That didn't ring true.
I disagree with that. You can argue vindictive prosecution without any admission at all. You could also argue selective prosecution, but there is more of an implication there that you're saying other people did it and weren't charged. Why am I being charged? But legally, I do not think that you could say it is an admission.
Okay. Jamie, were you trying to say something? We got busy there.
Well, only that if it is a vindictive prosecution, wouldn't that be grounds for a civil suit on Comey's part?
Yeah, at some point, because it would depend if it goes to trial. If it goes to trial and Comey were acquitted, then there would be grounds for a civil suit. Yes. But there would have to be.
And we're talking money.
Yes.
Yeah, money. But the other thing that you brought up before, Carolyn, is that if he can prove malicious prosecution, then he can get his legal fees paid by the taxpayers.
Well, it's not so much legal fees and money. I mean, there was one case, gosh, it's been 20 years ago, where there were allegations of that, and I think the people who were charged got about $8 million.
Wow.
Yeah, I think Trump and company were hoping that the Democrats were still angry enough with Comey that they wouldn't put up a fight.
Well, that actually goes to a question. Another question I'd written down. That grand jury. I got two questions about this. That grand jury that indicted him voted. I believe it was 14-9. I believe that's what it was.
Well, 14 voted for it. I don't know how many people were there.
I think they said 23.
Well, there's supposed to be 23 on the panel, but they may not have all been present that day.
Well, I had seen 14-9. But anyway, and then on the third count, they didn't agree. They didn't get a majority on that. So only 2 of the 3 counts they brought to the grand jury accepted. First question about that. If you're a prosecutor and you have a grand jury split, whatever number it was, but that a sizable number vote against your prosecution, that's a pretty lousy sign for how you're going to fare in a trial jury where you're going to need a unanimous verdict.
Well, we don't know what that other count was.
No, I'm just talking about overall. I mean, even just the 2 counts that they accepted, they split.
Well, that's not unusual. I mean, but 14, you only need 12. You have to have 12 vote for the indictment. They had 14. So, 14 believed there was sufficient evidence for the 2 counts. But not for the other count, and we don't know what that count was.
But I'm just saying, then you're going to go to a trial jury where in this case they will need a unanimous verdict, right, for a conviction.
But only 12.
Well, 12 out of
12 out of 12. Yeah, that has to be unanimous. Yes.
Yeah. And that's a higher burden of proof at the trial than it was at the grand jury.
It has to be proof beyond reasonable doubt.
So as a prosecutor, it wouldn't give you pause that you had a lot of those grand jurors.
Yeah, it would depend on the case. It would depend, in the abstract, it's hard to say. It would depend on the case, what the charges were. There are a lot of, other factors to consider. But here they had ample reason to know that there were a lot of opinions that there was not sufficient, and a lot of experienced people said we did not see sufficient evidence to even charge it.
And then Jamie, your point about Democrats, that one thing that I thought was kind of interesting is they brought this grand jury is in Northern Virginia, and I'd gone back and looked at the demographics and the political.
It's Eastern District of Virginia.
Yeah, Eastern District, but in Alexandria Courthouse, and the jury pool for the grand jury came from the Alexandria area.
There would be several counties around there.
Yeah. Anyway, the voting pattern of that area was definitely Democrat, as Jamie brought up. But the thing I thought, going to your point, Jamie, about that Democrats are mad at Comey, made me wonder if they actually got some votes in the grand jury from Democrats who don't like Comey.
Well, I'm still pissed off at him because of Hillary.
Right. Which is kind of amazing that, I think there's a pretty decent argument to be made that Donald Trump got elected president because of James Comey. I'll tell you who makes that argument is Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton both. I've heard them both say that. That last minute announcement by Comey that he had reopened the investigation of her, was and the polling that changed in the days after that, because it was right on the eve of the election, they are convinced, at least they say they are, that swung the election. So why is Donald Trump so mad at him? That's the thing that I can't figure out.
Well, Comey violated that whole idea of making that announcement within a certain number of days of the upcoming election. And, but I guess Trump is more angry about the Russia investigation.
But there again, Comey never said during the 2016 election, he never publicly said they were investigating Trump's Russia connections. They were, we later learned, but he never said that during the campaign. And he only talked about they were investigating Hillary. I just can't understand why Trump thinks Comey did him so bad. But Carolyn, on the legal front of what Comey did in those days, what was your take just legally as far as Judiciary, Department of Justice policy, how he handled the Hillary Clinton announcements and so on that we're talking about?
I think most people felt that it was a violation of Department of Justice policy, because generally we did not announce our investigations. We did not say, hey, we're investigating Sam Smith. It was considered inappropriate. And so I think that at the time, most people in the department felt, and it was not a political position, but they felt that he had violated Department of Justice policy in his statements.
That's certainly what the Clintons and their supporters thought. There were 2 points where he kind of went off the radar, off the reservation of DOJ policy. The first was when they had concluded their investigation of her emails, and the attorney general at the time was the woman who that story had just come out that she and Clinton had met at an airport in a plane.
Loretta Lynch.
Yes. And does anybody remember that story? And there was a big controversy over that.
Right. Yeah.
That she was having private
somewhere.
And you know what?
Yeah, it was very much a manufactured problem, because if I remember, it was an extremely hot day where they landed, and all he did was take her indoors so they could talk. But this became a big brouhaha over the fact that they were in secret, but they weren't. They were indoors.
Well,
Yeah,
they were in the plane, but the issue was that they had an opportunity to discuss it.
Yeah.
I somewhat knew Loretta Lynch. I had contact with her several times. She was the U.S. attorney in the Eastern District of New York, and then became the Deputy Attorney General, the DAG, and then was the Attorney General when the Attorney General left. But she was without a doubt one of the most well-respected U.S. attorneys I came across. The judges thought the world of her in the Eastern District of New York. All the law enforcement did. The people who worked in the office did. She was very well respected. So I did not for a minute believe that she would have discussed that matter with Bill Clinton. I just didn't.
And
she would have said, no, we're not going there.
And think about nowadays, and the whole issue there was the independence of the DOJ from the White House was violated, and because they met in this plane for 10 minutes or whatever. I mean, and compare that to today. I mean, what we are seeing happening to the independence being erased of the DOJ in so many different ways. That little controversy seems so naive by comparison.
I had one subject I wanted to bring up with you, Craig, about pretty much today's column and the people getting laid off or not currently working or at a home, and the amount of people in the DC area who will be financially injured if they don't get paid back for the time that they're off.
Yeah, I actually have friends who are in that fix. There's the headline you're talking about. Some Pat D did today. Some don't deserve. Some do.
Yeah,
getting into Trump's statement yesterday that, what was it here? It depends on, asking him about people on furlough not getting their back pay. It depends on who we're talking about. Trump said.
Well, one thing I noticed,
there are some people that really don't deserve to be taken care of, and we'll take care of them in a different way. What the hell does that mean?
What that brought up for me when I first went to DC, the one thing that I didn't object to, it just surprised me, was the workforce being so principally female Black at all of the various clerical levels.
Yeah.
The sheer large percentage. And I saw a news article about the number of families in the DC area that were going to be severely penalized because of these civil service workers being furloughed. And what rang a bell with me was the whole business of taking care of them in another way, and what we know about Miller and his hatred for anyone who has more than a 10.
Well, I think what you're trying to say is the white supremacists in charge of our federal government are firing Blacks as much as they can.
Right. I was trying to state that gracefully, but there is no way. They really are. They might as well be wearing sheets and carrying burning crosses. Carolyn, you seem to have lost Craig there.
Yeah, I think something happened to him. He'll be back.
So now we see what happens when you talk about white supremacists in the federal government. You get shut down. But anyway, Carolyn, when you were a federal employee as a federal prosecutor, did you go through some furloughs? Do I remember?
There were a couple. We never even noticed it because I continued to work. I never had to stay home. I was an essential employee, so I went
Did you get paid?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So you didn't have a back pay situation.
At that time, there was no statute about that. But then once Congress came back, they always voted to pay the people who had not been in the office working. There is now a statute about that says that anybody who was unable to work will be paid. So that's what's confusing about what now OMB or OPM, who that Vote guy.
Russell Vogt, the author of Project 2025.
Right. It's confusing what he says now and what he's talking about because there is a statute, and it has always been understood by Congress to mean that the people who were off not working, and the other people too, the people who were the essential workers, that they would be paid. That's always been the understanding. I can't remember. That bill was, Trump signed that bill when he was president first time. I think it was in 2019. So he's actually the president who signed it. But when I was working and we had a couple of furloughs, I never missed a paycheck. I mean, we still got paid, but they weren't that long. The shutdowns were not that long back then. I mean, it might have been a week.
Because you had retired by the time of Trump's longest ever.
Yeah, the one that was 30-something days. Yeah, that was under Trump in his first term, and I don't know. I don't recall. I'm assuming that the people missed at least one paycheck.
Yeah, I've talked to. I've got a friend who works in a federal agency, and he got. I mean, the night that when the Senate failed to pass what they needed to pass to avoid the shutdown, he got an email immediately saying that he was non-essential and didn't have to come to work. So he's not been going to work, and but he's not getting paid. But he's supposed to get back pay. Hey, Stir is here. Stir, are you there?
Yes. Hello.
Hey there, Stir. Today you're Stir Williger. I just have to call you Stir because you always put a different ending on it. Why? What is Stir Williger, by the way? What is that?
Oh, I have no idea.
Williger?
It's sort of like G. Willikers, except he's Stir Williger.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Carolyn's has.
Jamie's our Stir translator.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought that was. I can't see very well.
But anyway, Carolyn, Stir, if I can say this, I think so. Stir's in South Carolina.
Oh.
Close enough.
Yeah.
Oh, you're not in South Carolina?
Well, I'm kind of there.
Stir never commits.
He's incognito.
Yeah. He's in an undisclosed location. But anyway, Carolyn has you've got some background stuff. That reminds me, Carol, I was going to ask you about this judge in South Carolina. They burned her whole house down.
Oh, yeah.
No, that as the last I heard, they are saying that they do not suspect arson, but they're continuing to investigate.
That was my understanding as well, that it was not the result of a criminal act, that they were still looking at the causes, but not.
And so it was just a coincidence that she had recently ruled against Republicans in a vote counting case in South Carolina. Then
that is what they are saying. Yes.
You got anything on that, Stir?
Don't have any facts, no. But
no, well, we don't need that.
Our house burned down. It's NCIS guy. He's always saying no coincidence.
Oh, NCIS.
Yeah, no such thing as a coincidence. Yeah, it's one of the rules.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to dip back into our Comey discussion, but while we have Carolyn here and your expertise on DOJ, so we discussed how the Attorney General in those days, Loretta Lynch, had the controversy with the meeting with Trump, and then it was in that same.
It was a meeting with Clinton.
With Clinton, yeah. And it was in that same period then, roughly, that Comey's FBI had completed their investigation of Hillary, and then the decision had to be made whether to prosecute. And his recommendation and their decision was not to prosecute. But then the question became who was going to announce that. And as I recall, Loretta Lynch decided not to announce it because of all that controversy with her and Clinton's relationship. And that's why Comey ended up doing the famous press conference where he came out and said they weren't prosecuting her, but that her handling of the emails had been, I forget the words he used, sloppy or something. He added some words that he didn't need to, that took a shot at Clinton, even though he wasn't. Is that how you remember it?
Well, there were two things that he announced publicly where he said that they weren't going to prosecute anything. But then he also, just before the election, said we are reopening the investigation. That's the one.
Yeah, that was the second time that was so bad. Right. Yeah. Now,
my understanding when he made the announcements that had not been cleared with Loretta Lynch, and the DAG at that time was Sally Yates, I believe.
Yeah.
And I think that it had not been cleared with either of them. That was my understanding.
Yep. And his explanation at the time, I sort of bought, was the reason he announced it was that because, he had been advising Congress of this prosecution all along, and that he was obligated to tell Congress that he had reopened the investigation. And his concern was that someone in Congress would leak that. And he felt it was his obligation to make it public that they had reopened the investigation. That was his argument at the time.
Which was, I thought plausible.
Yeah. You buy that, Jamie? or were you listening?
I bought it as his reasoning, but not his timing. I found his timing to be inappropriate.
I think it was like the Thursday before.
Right. It was there was no time for the Clintons to really respond to what he said before the election. It was just too short a time period. And it did some real damage, mainly because of the third-party interest in that election. It deprived them of some votes that I think they would have had otherwise.
Well, let's see. We could dip in. MSNBC is really staying on this Comey story. Everybody else has kind of moved on.
Are they out of court now, or do we know?
Yeah, I'm going to dip into them here and see what they're saying.
in which President Trump was charged, there were issues about his own access to classified information, which his lawyers argued he was entitled to as a defendant, that he should have access.
I get a kick out of this woman. She's they're one of their legal experts. She gets so energetic.
But expect there to be a decided fight, perhaps, at some point about whether Jim Comey, who had his security clearance stripped from him by this administration, is nonetheless forced to give one back to him in order to fulfill his constitutional rights as a defendant, to have all the information and the case before him at his disposal. Ken, as we're talking about all this classified information, remind us what that might entail as it pertains to the evidence that we're aware of in this case.
Yeah, let's take a step back for people that are tuning in and wondering what the heck is this case actually all about, right? It goes back to a 2020 hearing. It was a seminal congressional hearing in the Senate that was designed to explore the FBI's, essentially the Trump-Russia investigation. They called it Crossfire Hurricane. And James Comey was the star witness, and he was grilled all day by senators, particularly Republicans, who believed that the FBI committed misconduct in that investigation. Of course, an inspector general looked at it and found that they properly opened it, although they made some mistakes along the way, and Comey owned some of those mistakes during the hearing. But the exchange at issue here in this trial, it was not about Crossfire Hurricane. Essentially, it was about whether James Comey had authorized members of his staff, FBI officials, to leak to the press. And what Senator Ted Cruz asked him about was testimony that went back to 2017, previous testimony, for which the statute of limitations has expired. But in this case, because this hearing was 2020, the statute of limitations was just about to expire before they filed this case. And essentially, what it boils down to is Senator Cruz restated a question from 2017, essentially asking James Comey, have you ever authorized anyone at the FBI to be an anonymous source in news reports? And what the indictment says, although it doesn't say it clearly, as we understand it, the indictment alleges that James Comey did authorize his friend and former aide, Dan Richman, to leak to reporters. And Dan Richman had been working as a special government employee for the FBI at the time. The problem with that, of course, is that Dan Richman, we understand that Dan Richman was interviewed by prosecutors in this case, and his testimony was not helpful to them. And he was not called before the grand jury. And so to the extent that they need a witness explaining that James Comey lied or knowingly misstated things to Congress, it doesn't appear that they have that. What we don't know is what documents they may have, emails or other things that they presented to the grand jury that led for.
Well, that was a pretty good no-spin analysis of what the case is actually about. And I mean, Carol, that's kind of interesting that they couldn't bring the witness to the crime that they're alleging because he doesn't say what they want him to say.
Well, that is interesting. They have to have a witness to testify to it.
What's that?
They will need to have a witness to testify to it at trial. Now, for grand jury purposes, they did not need to take the witness in. Somebody else could have testified to that because hearsay is allowed in the grand jury. At the trial, there will have to be a witness to testify to that. Or a witness, or it has to be documentary. It has to be shown on the document somehow without hearsay.
Yeah.
But that means then that's why he needs his security clearance back so that he can see those documents that he now no longer has access to.
Yeah, he will absolutely have to have security clearance, as will his lawyers. They will also have to have a security clearance.
And what if they don't give it to him?
Well, then the case can be dismissed with reason.
Yeah, if they can't present it in court as evidence because it's secret.
Yeah. We're going to charge you with the crime, but you can't see the evidence because it's classified. That's where we are at this very moment.
So, well, I'm going to need to sign off. been out of town. I got a bunch of stuff I got to take care of today. So, and I'm going out of town again. So,
where are you going?
Georgia. I'm going to Georgia. So.
Yeah.
So,
And,
I enjoyed it.
Yeah. Hop in anytime. We can hop in or out. We don't check a clock.
Okay.
Thank you. I always like listening.
Yeah.
Bye-bye. Goodbye.
Bye-bye, Carol. We should get her to do a travel log someday.
Oh, it's amazing. I mean, the thing about Carolyn, she's the busiest retired person I know. I mean, she just is. She does Meals on Wheels. She goes to foreign countries. She's getting ready to go to the Galapagos Islands. She just got back from Amsterdam. I mean, and she drives to Georgia where nieces and nephews live constantly. And she and her partner Mike, they have a boat in the outer islands in North Carolina. They go fishing. I mean, it wears me out.
Oh, did you see where I put up the ravages of war in Portland with all the little costume characters dancing in the street?
Oh, is that today? Is that on there today?
Yeah, it's on there today.
I'll go look at that.
It's so typically Portland.
I'll go look at that.
Yeah, there is a reason that Portlandia was
right
so popular.
I don't. Yeah, I think that's one reason the Fox and the right wing, they just have a thing. They just hate Portland. I mean, they just have this thing about Portland. I've never been there. I don't know. All I know about it is what you're saying, that show, which I love that show.
Well, let's just say that show was not that far off the mark. Exaggerated, but very real.
Well, I'm not seeing this. Oh, here.
Here we are.
Is this a video? Or?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, good.
Portland is unbelievable what's going on in Portland. The destruction of the city. Well, I'm going to look at it now because I didn't know that was still going on. This has been going on for years. So we'll be able to.
Well, I did see the reporter, I forget his name, is one of their great reporters at CNN. He was at the scene in Portland, and he made the point that the violence, the supposed violence they're talking about was only like a 1 or 2 blocks in Portland.
In different years.
Yeah, right. No, that's true. Yeah.
Like I said, the scenes they were showing, I think, were from the George Floyd protests.
Well, now, Dongon's been busy over here in the comments, and I can't get her to come on here. But let's see. I'll read. I've got them down here in the. It's got this saying "show comments on stage," and they're showing, but you can't really. It's so small, you can't really read them. I don't know if I put this on. No, that doesn't help. Anyway, she had several things to say here. The Comeys, yeah, she's supporting the Comeys. Well, Dungon, if you're still there, I put the link in the comments here. You can come on here and talk to us. She came on here once before, and I really enjoyed her.
Did we lose Sturgeon?
Let's see what. Hey, MSNBC, they're really sticking with the Comey story. Going in deep. Let's see.
NBC, it's funny. I
only appointed
completely
pretty much the day before. There could be enough contrary evidence that the judge says, we're going to let this go to a jury. But that's going to be a tough call for Judge Knockenoff. I'm not sure what the result would be if when that motion is filed.
Of course, the person who was in the role of U.S. attorney in this
I
Eastern District
guess
of
they're
Virginia
waiting for
before
Comey to come out. If
was
he's going to
ousted by
come
the
out and
president,
say
again,
something, although
because
I don't see
according to our reporting,
microphones
he
there.
didn't think this case was strong enough to seek an indictment, and neither did prosecutors who were working with him on this
I've
case.
noticed he's being
The
careful
president
about
has singled out
public
Eric Siebert as
statements.
well in many of his
He put out
online
an
posts
Instagram
as
right
he's talked
after the
about this
indictment,
Comey
and I
case.
think that's
At
all
some
he's
point,
done.
could Eric Siebert, could other
Because
people
he's media
inside the U.S.
savvy. I
Attorney's
mean,
office
if he
be
decides to
called
do TV,
as witnesses?
he's
Well,
pretty
I think
good
we
at
have
it.
to consider the fact that a lot of
anyways, I started to say, I think NBC is trying to become a major news source. They're divesting themselves of their left wing with getting rid of MSNBC.
Oh, right, yeah.
And I think they're trying to position themselves somewhere to right center, to be an alternative to Fox. And anyway, I just ended up getting rid of Peacock. They didn't have any programming I even wanted to watch.
Yeah, and to go up a notch from what you're saying to up the ladder, I think Comcast wants to sell it. And to do that, they got to either sell it to a conservative, or they got to sell it in a way that the Trump administration will approve the sale. I mean, that's the horrible situation we're in with this government and media, is it's in a position to use its regulatory powers to affect mergers and sales and so on, and they're using that power. And so I think that's also going on.
And because so much is going to streaming, the alternative news to Fox being MSNBC and CNN.
Yeah.
To get them, if you're a streamer, you have to pay a minimum of $45 a month to Sling, up to the high end of YouTube, that's almost $90 a month, to get them either one live. And that's very destructive on the news side of everything.
Yeah.
It's hard to get them live, and Fox you can get live easily. They're all over the place.
Oh yeah, they've been very aggressive. I mean, their YouTube channel. Well, they've all got YouTube channels, but
yeah, but with CNN and MSNBC, it's after the fact. To get them live, you have to pay through the nose.
Well, I see on here it still says MSNBC, but I don't know when, but I think it is this month. At some point, fairly soon, that MSNBC changes to MSN.
Or MS Now, when you commented, it sounds like they're bidding for a disease.
Yeah. I guess that's what it's going to say is, they're going to replace the BC with OW.
Yeah.
I guess. And, but that happens any day now, I think. I'm pretty sure it was going to happen in October. Oh, by the way, we did go to Red Lobster yesterday.
Oh. So, did you enjoy your meal at this Red Lobster?
Well, you know what? I got the lunch platter, which I thought would be modest because their portions are so big. I used to love their big portions before Manjaro. But anyway, I got the lunch portion, and it was the sailor's platter for $17.95, and it was still more than I could eat. It had like
I told my son it's a waste of money to take me out to dinner. Just bring home the leftovers, and I may or may not make a meal of them.
Well, the thing is, I might start doing, I don't know, I might do what my mom started doing when she got to the point her appetite went, and she always had low appetite, period. But anyway, she would just order. A friend of hers told her one time, she said, "You could just order appetizers. There's no shame in that, you know." And so she would just order appetizers, and and was much happier because then she could get a little more variety, and then not get too much food. I might start doing that.
Well, we have this wonderful Greek restaurant called Georgia's out here, and I've stopped ordering the full meals and just order 2 appetizers.
Yeah, I think but it was good. I really like Red Lobster. They're on the comeback. Is that Comey there coming out, or I guess he's not going to talk? Oh, he just went into the parking garage. I see. Well, I guess he's not going to talk. That's probably smart. He's just not. He's going to let his lawyers do the work, I guess, and do the talking.
Well, he may have learned his lesson that opening his mouth gets him in trouble.
Yeah, because I mean, every time Trump opens his mouth about this case, he's making life harder for the prosecutors because he's just proving that this is a malicious prosecution by a vengeful president, which is going to be their first motion to the judge, I think.
I was surprised he didn't go all Truth Social last night.
Oh, you know what?
So,
I haven't looked at his Truth Social lately. See what he's saying there.
His all caps rants.
Oh yeah, I used to check in a little more often, but now they get so much coverage that I kind of don't have to. There was a time when they got very little coverage that I was having to check them myself every day. But here he is. Here it is. Let's see what he's done. Here it is today. Here's 4 minutes ago. Oh, they go through these. This is staff written. They write a bunch of endorsements these are a bunch of endorsements for Republicans. Oh, here's one he wrote. 2 hours.
Yeah, this is the one I was telling you about, wanting to arrest the Chicago mayor.
Chicago mayor should be in jail for failing to protect ICE officers. Governor Pritzker also. Oh, by the way, the governor should be in jail too. All right.
All right.
Let's just put them all in jail. Boy, I tell you, old Pritzker's really gotten under his skin. Let's see. Our morning read. Oh, nice. I will always. Oh, he reposts a lot of these videos where he looks like Caesar. There's another one. Yeah, these are I call this his Caesar posts. He's Caesar, and these are reposts. Oh boy, now we're getting into. Wait a minute, that's an old one.
That's an old one, yeah.
Why is that?
That's what I said. He didn't have much activity.
He reposted one of his old posts. Here's what this is. Telling pregnant women not to use Tylenol. I don't know why Tylenol just doesn't buy $1 million. Just buy $1 million worth of his crypto coins, and he'll leave them alone. Then he's quoting some kind of U.S. code. Now we're into 11 hours ago, so it's crime. Oh, he's always pushing Mark. Do you ever? I got a friend who watches this guy and tries to get me to watch him now and then, and this Mark Levin, that guy, he's just such a phony. But his followers love him.
I haven't paid any attention to him.
You probably shouldn't start. He's very aggravating. I haven't been able to. Well, I guess we've got the Comey arraignment off the ground and can move on. to the
There's
rest.
not a whole much new to yak about. I just wanted to touch base with you.
Yeah, I like getting these live events on here and talking about them. Makes it kind of fresh and fun. And so, yeah, I think it's been an hour. About an hour is a sweet spot for these. Then my AI generator can more quickly go through the feed and pick out 30 to 60 second shorts.
Right.
Well, I mean, I have the AI machine do that, and it's pretty good at it. It goes through a live stream and picks out the 30 seconds or so that would make good short videos, and then so that I can post those. And about an hour's length is good for that. Otherwise, it takes too long to do it.
Well, you're creeping up on your lunch hour anyway, so I will let you depart and do your editing bit.
All right.
Talk to you later.
Good talking to you.
Bye-bye.
Okay, I'm Lady Mau Mau, Craig's built-in emergency brake. If this wasn't enough for you, sign up for the newsletter. It's free, it's thoughtful, and it occasionally makes sense.